In capitalism, we give to a certain group of people, by the way, a small minority, the power to determine prices, the prices to be charged for a shirt, for a bag of potato chips, for a software program, for whatever it is. The price is set by the owner or the board of directors, if it's a corporation, of capitalist enterprises. A free enterprise system means that the employer is free to set the prices that he or she wants. And what do they do with that freedom? Well, you know the answer, even if you've never gone to business school. You know that the employer, the producer, the owner, the entrepreneur, the capitalist sets the price that will get for him or her the greatest profit. That's what they're in business to get, and that's how they decide what to do with prices. Of course, they have to be careful. They can't just raise the price astronomically because obviously in our system, the higher the price, the fewer the people who can afford to buy it. And you'd be shooting yourself in the foot if you raised the price so far that there were only very few people left to pay, and then you'd lose in foregone sales.
I love the person being like, what about the invisible hand, when he's like quite literally describing that process of like what negative consequences can occur in terms of like normal market conditions when you set the price point too high. Like he's literally describing it. He's not talking about like everyone being motivated by self-interest and then that's the reason why there's like not a barter system, but instead of wage structure, blah, blah, blah. But like ultimately, he's talking about how, yes, unless there is like pure inelastic demand, barring the pure inelastic demand, when there are at least some level of when there's at least some level of competition in the marketplace, there are going to be certain factors in play that cause the people that make the prices to not go as high as they want to.
What you had hoped to gain by raising the price. So what every capitalist understands is you push that price as high as you can, just to that point where pushing it any higher would be bad for profits because of the number of people who couldn't buy it anymore, and that's when you stop. But notice in my story that the capitalist is setting the price based on one thing he or she is focused on: profits. It is not in our capitalist system the obligation or the responsibility of the employer to worry about the consequences of whatever prices he sets or she sets. And that's where they become like King George III, who set all kinds of prices. For example, the famous tax on tea that led those colonists in Boston to have that first Boston Tea Party, throwing the tea into the harbor in protest because what the king was doing by taxing the tea was good for the king, but was awful for the city of Boston's merchants and the people dependent on them. Well, when capitalists raise their prices, they are not responsible any more than George III was for what happened, for the suffering that I'm going to show you, for the social consequences I'm going to sketch for you when prices go up.
Also, that is not what Adam Smith meant by invisible hand. He would have a stroke if he saw modern capitalism at work. Adam Smith, by today's standards, would be considered a pussy-ass libtard socialist by Ben Shapiro, okay? Don't ever ask what Adam Smith had to say about landlords.